the fight against corruption. And I'm being joined in the studio here by Jiti Ogunye. He's a legal practitioner. I want to thank you so much indeed for coming on Sunrise Daily. And joining us as well from our Abuja studios is the former chairman of the National Human Rights Commission, Professor Chidi Odinkalu. Thank you for joining us from our Abuja studios. Let me begin with you.
Thank you very much, and good morning. Yeah.
Let me begin with you there, because a lot of people have raised questions as to the direction the fight against corruption is taking in Nigeria. But what's your view? Are we winning this war against corruption?
Good morning again, and in particular, good morning, Jiti.
Yeah, good morning.
Well, look, I want to start from a basis that corruption exacts a huge cost on our society, and it deserves to be fought. And anybody who is going to do it with fairness and firmness deserves to be supported. It's good to listen to the chair of the EFCC reel out what he did yesterday. I am at best ambivalent about the current version of this fight against corruption. And let's be clear here. This fight against corruption, actually, if you look at our history, has been there since independence. And Tafawa Balewa fought it, got killed. And then on 15th of January 1966, Nzogu announced his coup condemning the 10%ers. Every military regime since then has claimed to fight corruption under different guises. Every civilian regime has claimed to do so. And we need to ask ourselves the question, why is it that every government claims to fight corruption and yet none appears to succeed in it? And yet none appears to do it properly? Because I do have very serious questions about the credibility of this current version of the fight against corruption. It is true that a senior advocate has been convicted. It is indeed quite true that there are some governors who have been convicted after 10 years, 11 years of trial. But let's not forget, an Inspector General of Police was also convicted under President Obasanjo, and you had convictions under President Jonathan. So I'm not yet persuaded by the current fight against corruption. That is my very honest assessment.
What would you like to see then, if you are not yet clear about the direction of the fight against corruption by this administration and by extension previous administration? What will fight against corruption mean to you such that you are comfortable that we are headed in the right direction?
Fairness and the absence of duplicity. Look, in this country, less than 18 months ago, the Vice President, the Attorney General of the Federation, and the National Security Advisor investigated the then serving Secretary to the Government of the Federation. They found enough facts on the basis of which he had to lose his job. Today, that man is still working free, still parading as a campaigner for the president. Odinkalu, the former governor of Abia State, has shifted parties and is playing hide and seek with the legal process and is collecting, indeed, traditional titles from the president's village and traditional ruler. And we think that is proper. And we see him cavorting and taking pictures with the president who is fighting corruption. There are things that you don't do if you want your fight against corruption to be serious. And Governor Ganduje and the chairman of the EFCC is saying his case is in court. What court? Those are legal proceedings procured in order to preclude proper investigation into the allegations against Governor Ganduje. And then on Sunday, he's in Enugu doing harvest and bazaar with a renegade Catholic priest. I'm sorry, it just does not add up. it does not persuade Nigerians that the government wants to take this seriously. That is my personal view, despite all the things that the chairman of the EFCC is saying. And one more thing, he should stop going around as EFCC chairman wearing the campaign pins of any candidate. You don't do that, because when you do, you lead people to believe that the fight against corruption is being perverted for partisan political purposes.
Okay, let or two, and then I'll come to Jiti Ogunye. You heard him. He said perception is a major concern and seems to be robbing off, basically, from the gains of the fight against corruption. But in your assessment, do you stand with him on this?
No, I'm not able to stand with him on this. I understand, quite frankly, the angle from which Jiti is coming from. But let's face it, the fight against corruption in this country is a Herculean task. And we can't play the ostrich. It's a Herculean task. We live in a society where tradition of vigorous investigation and prosecution of the corrupt, particularly if they are the political powerful, it was almost absent. We could talk about talking about the 10%ers and all that, military gangsters using that as a pretext to snatching political power. Their boast that they wanted to fight corruption. But it was only when Obasanjo came that we had the institutionalization of institutions that were going to fight corruption in Nigeria. The first bill he sent to the National Assembly was the bill for the creation of the ICPC. And then the EFCC came in tow. So what we've had in Southeast Asia, South Korea, Japan, China, all those countries where, whether you be president or you be prime minister or you be anybody, you're going to have your day in court. We never had that tradition. Until recently, no governor had ever been jailed in Nigeria successfully. Now we had two, and more are facing trial. Look, I see this as a progression towards the ideal. We may say that there are still reservations and all that in terms of modus operandi and all that, but serious efforts are being made. Even in our profession, we are lawyers. Until recently, many lawyers, particularly if they are senior ones, could do practically everything. But we'll be playing the ostrich not to know that senior lawyers now are now being tried. One has been convicted. 3 have been charged to court. And only yesterday, one was charged to court.
But to clear his own thoughts.
So the point I'm making, therefore, is that there's this progression. And I know that everywhere, not just in Nigeria, and the corruption fight usually is hampered by political consideration. In Israel right now, Netanyahu is facing some probe. He's fighting hard not to be brought down. And just in the United States right now, over 200 years of democracy, in their election, they are investigating voters' fraud. There, in the United States. Based on absentee ballot manipulation. And even over there, we've been hearing about gerrymandering for ages. So, fraud and corruption is not a Nigerian thing. It could have hampered our growth and development. And my sincere view is that this EFCC is doing the best that it should do in the circumstances, in spite of the distraction, in spite of the vilification, in spite of There are institutions that should support anti-corruption fight. If I were to ask a critical question, whether our legislature today in the National Assembly is supporting this fight, what do you think the sincere opinion of many Nigerians will be?